All right. Excuse me. Good morning, everybody. Get to a few quick things here. First and foremost, was excited to hear the good news on the House vote on the Pensacola Perdido Bay Estuary program. That's something that I believe, you guys can correct me, I believe something, they haven't made an additional estuary designation nationally in something like 30 plus years in the United States. And so it's been a lot of hard work from lots of folks in the community. Obviously Matt Posner and the estuary program as a whole has taken this on. We've worked with them closely for at least the 2 years I've been here to try to network and set up meetings and try to get the ball moving forward. And so we just play a small role in that. Certainly, this designation is going to be to our city's benefit significantly. Possible funding and certainly the credibility that would go with any type of legislative ask to help our waterways. So very excited for that. Happy for Matt and his team, and I think it's a great day for the community. And now it's on the president's desk. We'll see what happens next. I mentioned in the State of the City update about recycling. And mentioned we're working with the Recycling Partnership, the nonprofit that helps communities either start or restart recycling programs. And we're waiting on a few more steps. We continue to have, right now, weekly conversations with them about getting the potential grant that we're receiving from them, around $260,000 that will be put in play. Part of that being helping with education and mail and getting people opted in for recycling when it comes back this spring. And part of it will be the technology piece, which would be to put some AI cameras on our recycling trucks that will actually identify contamination as it gets put back into the can. So we are still in line for a start this spring again. Our team, sanitation and David Forte, just had a call again yesterday on the technology side of things. So we continue to piece together. We'll have a formal announcement that'll have more exact dates, and certainly we're going to do that before people start getting things in the mail. One other side saddle item to that is how we're going to price sanitation moving forward. So that's another part that we can't get too far down the road in announcing exactly how the opt-in will work, especially because one of the first questions is going to be, well, what's it going to cost? We're really looking at actually revamping our entire pricing model where you might be able, the base bill may go down. If you want garbage once a week, you don't care about recycling. And that was one of the immediate reactions, small one, but immediate reaction to going when we replaced mandatory recycling with twice a week. Some folks said, hey, I live by myself, I'm a senior or I'm a college graduate, I don't need garbage twice a week. Obviously, we were trying to give you equivalent services. That's why we went that road, not because we thought we would do that permanently. But we may go to a model where the base bill goes down, and then you would have a choice. You could either get a second garbage can if you still don't want to recycle, and you'd be right around what you're paying now, or you could have a recycling can and be right around what you're paying now. So it's a good dovetail into our Haas survey that's just come out, because we asked some of those specific questions so we can understand how to model the pricing. So we will have a question on our resident satisfaction survey that's in the field right now. And that question will basically be the scenario I just rolled out. If you want to pay X dollars for one can, would you pick that? Would you pick opt-in? Would you pick 2 cans? Or would you pick all 3? You could have all 3 if you wanted. That answer, where we can have reliable data. Last year we had about 1,600 respondents in the city. It was all city residents. That will give us a very, very helpful indicator about how we should end up eventually pricing it. So we have some general ideas and some general goals on how we're going to do it, but to say it's $23 or $24 or $29, it's too early to say that, because we don't have enough data coming in. So, but we will in the next 30 days. So there's really 2 things in play. One is we are bringing back curbside recycling no matter what, and it will be opt-in. It will not be back to mandatory. Those are for sure. And then how the rest of it plays out also matters a little bit on how we're going to end up pricing it ultimately. So So more to come. We will have a formal announcement with the recycling partnership here with all of those details, exact dates. We're working through that, and I would expect come the new year we will have that formal announcement with them. So very excited for their partnership and excited to bring it back. Resident satisfaction survey. Right now, you can go to uwf.edu/HOS resident survey. It'll also be on the City of Pensacola website, and city residents will be getting a mailer in probably in the next 7 to 10 days, depending on how quick we get those cards out. But it will be open till January 17th. The residents can also call during those last 10 days. They'll be able to actually call in, and we'll give, as we have these press conferences, we'll get you that phone number. That's not set up yet, but they will have the ability to call in themselves if they would like. And so again, very excited to have that data. We use this as an opportunity. Not only you'll have some of the same questions over years of time, which I think is very valuable for surveys. You can see how we're evolving, but also we use this as an opportunity to ask things about recycling, to ask things about parking, to ask things. We try to be topical every year with a few of these questions because this is a taxpayer expense, and this is supposed to be actionable data, and so we try to make it that as much as we can. So very excited always, as you guys know. I like data and I like surveys, so I always like seeing where our city stands. A couple FDOT road project updates within the city limits. North Palafox Street, there will be intermittent lane closures on North Palafox from Cervantes to Brent between 9 a.m. and 3:30. Crews are paving. I have received emails or gotten questions about some of the work taking place, and the presumption is if you don't see somebody out there working on it right now that it's complete. That is not the case. We continue to work on that road diet on the North Palafox side. That's what that's referring to. Gregory Street from North Palafox to east of 14th, there'll be some alternating lane closures between 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. for some utility work and manhole adjustments. And then on Scenic Highway, there'll be some lane closures south of I-10 to south of Hyde Park Road between 8 p.m. and 5:30 a.m. overnight. And the crews are installing some guardrails along Scenic Highway. So those are state roads. That's why we're giving them to you as those FDOT road project updates. Just trying to make you aware in case that affects your commute from your house to or from. I just wanted to get you guys an update on the fishing bridge for the Pensacola Bay. One very common seasonal misperception right now is that we, the city, control that construction project. We do not. I understand why that's confusing because the city does control Wayside Park, but the second you go from Wayside Park to the bridge, that is now the county's bridge. So that means it's a county project for the reconstruction, the repair of that bridge. So I know the county has submitted 100% design plans, and they're waiting on some DEP permitting, and they're also waiting on Army Corps permits. The goal should be permitting wrapped up by the end of March, and then the project going to bid in early April and construction to take place this summer. So I shared with the county that I would be sharing this. I'm not trying to get in front of their news. This is obviously their project, but because of that confusion and ambiguity, and I get a lot of questions about it, why aren't you fixing Wayside Park? We've had some construction signs. Well, it's pretty logical, I think, which is we're not going to go in and fix a park that's about to become a $25 million laydown yard for a 12-month, 18-month potential project. You'd have to ask the county how long, but it's a $20+ million project, and I don't see that it would make a lot of logical sense for us to go repave a parking lot that will now get beat up by trucks and concrete pilings and everything else. And so the south side of that's why we have broken the Wayside Park and Bayou Tahar boat launch into really two different projects. So we continue to move forward from the boat launch north, the train trestle, the boardwalk on the north side of the graffiti bridge. All of that work is full steam ahead. We'll get done. Anything to the south, really ultimately of the Visit Pensacola building, anything south where the city is putting a hold on because it's about to be closed to the public for the most part anyway. So that's how it comes across my desk is people saying, Mayor, why aren't you doing this at the park? Why aren't you fixing the bridge? That's the confusion. And so, of course, we'll work alongside the county and support in any way that we can. When closures need to happen, we'll continue to narrate that to you guys. But But that's where we are as it pertains to the bridge and therefore as it pertains to Wayside Park. Christmas parade, obviously 5:30 p.m. this Saturday, the 42nd annual. The city crews will be preparing for the parade tomorrow, and they'll be where the barricades will be dropped off in phases, and then they won't be set up until 1 o'clock on Saturday. So we've been in contact with the DIB and making sure that they know that. There's no change to the route that you guys know about, and they'll start the PPD will start closing off the roads right around 3 o'clock. So last thing is just a plea for some common sense at the Summit Boulevard recycling site. We spent considerable time over the weekend picking up stuff toppled all over the recycling site. I understand, it's full. And by the way, this was a recurring problem previous to the end of curbside recycling 1.0. And it wasn't necessarily that it was recycling; it was couches and everything else. So this has been a well beyond my years issue because it's unmanned, and that's why cities struggle with some of these unmanned drop-offs, is because it becomes grounds for all sorts of shenanigans. So if we see people, we have people dumping garbage there. It's not just don't assume that it's just recycling piling up. It's garbage and everything else. So certainly we'd like people to report it to us if you see someone out there dumping garbage or dumping couches or anything else. That's obviously not what it's used for. And all it does ultimately is motivate it only makes the cost burden of us providing unmanned recycling higher. So, if we want to continue to have that as an amenity, we've got to keep that under control and certainly keep our crews and our staff and your taxpayer dollars in mind when you're putting things there that shouldn't be there. So just wanted to make sure we mention that. That is everything I've got, and happy to take your questions.
Mayor, on the residents' satisfaction survey, you talked about topical questions and obviously the recycling. And you mentioned parking. What are the topical questions this year on the survey?
Well, we're going to ask two questions. Memory serves. Normally, we put this out in the fall. Part of our delay was we had so many we just had a litany of engagements that we didn't want to get confused. We had the citywide strategic plan, we had the CRA updates, so we didn't want to add yet another confusion to the mix that we were asking for opinions and people be confused about what they're asking about. So we had to kind of clear the deck with all of those, and now that those are all pretty much buttoned up from an engagement standpoint, we're moving to this. So that's the reason you will look back a year ago and say, well, this was in October, that's why. But as it pertains to parking, if memory serves, I think we're asking two questions that I remember, which is, number one, would you rather pay $1 an hour and park in front of the place you're going, or pay nothing and walk 1 to 2 blocks? Just curious. I want to see could be 50-50, could be 70-30. It'd be interesting to see which you prefer. And then the second one is, since these are city residents, we say, since there's a user fee, and the format that we're now in is a user fee, the question ultimately sets up the scenario of if there's a $20 million parking garage that needs to be built in the city limits, you have two choices. We can charge $1 an hour, where 85% of the revenue, I'm going to get it exactly right because I just looked it up, 80.1% actually of the last 3 months of revenue is coming from people who do not live in the city limits. Or would you rather us bond it on the 55,000 people who live here? I have a hunch where that one's going to go. I'm guessing the city residents would rather have 80% of the revenue generated for their infrastructure be paid by the people who are using downtown and not themselves. But surveys have surprised me before, so we'll find out. But I think at the end of the day, I was elected into this job by the 55,000 people who live here. And I'd be curious to see what their thoughts are on do they feel the obligation to pay for future infrastructure downtown, or do they feel like we should be having, like a bed tax, like anything else, that we should have a user fee that's helping us pay. So we'll see what they say.
On the recycling, I guess, when you all sent out the previous question, were you expecting it to take this long to actually get curbside in place, or just the length of time it's taking?
You mean when we asked the question for opt-in or not last year?
Yeah. Did you expect that to
No.
be a year down the road and still not have it up?
Not, I don't think we had any expectation at that time. We weren't saying, hey, we were going to have it back by the spring. But the question we asked last year, if you recall, is just if you'd like to pay $8 to $10 more a month, how many of you would sign up for curbside recycling? Now, we just, we were trying to be as logical with the number as we could. There was no science behind that. Educated guess, right? And 50% of the city said that they would. So I would say it was extremely valuable in the sense that what if that had come back at 9%? Now we probably are. It's helped. What I would say is that survey answer helped fuel our strategy to say, all right, well, we're going forward with the confidence that there's enough economy of scale that enough people will sign up for this, that it's worth looking into. If 5% of our city or 10% of our city said we're the only ones that are willing to pay, well, the economy of scale to provide that service would be so expensive. It may not be $8 to $10. It would have to be $20 a month if you were only going to 500 houses or 1,000 houses out of the 20,800 we go to. So, so that I would say that was very helpful in helping, embolden us to go in this direction of opting in for a fee. The better news is that question was posed as $8 to $10 a month. We don't know the exact numbers, but my goal is to get, if you want one can and one garbage can and one recycling can a week, ultimately back to where we were, that you'll be paying about the same. Now it could be a couple dollars more, I don't know yet. So if you compare that to the question where you're paying around $29 a month right now, what our city told us is they'd be willing to pay $39 a month, or $37 to $39 a month to have curbside, and we are not going to go to that extent. It will be less than that for curbside because of that's why we're redoing the billing, is that we want to give everybody the freedom of options. If all they want is one garbage can, then they certainly shouldn't be paying the same number they're paying now, right? They should pay a little bit less. And so that's what this question will help us answer. I believe we plugged numbers in, but as you guys see that and see it reported, that those are not set in stone. To ask the question, we had to give some scenario. We couldn't just say, we couldn't put a fill in the blank for the amount because that was important. So we say something to the effect of $23 a month for one time a week, $29 a month for opt-in and once a week, $29 a month for 2 garbage cans, no recycling. And then I think it's something like $34 if you want all of them. If you want 2 garbage cans and recycling, you can have a litany of cans. You can pay for that opportunity. Then, so there's a scenario with a dollar amount in there, but until we have this data back, we couldn't confirm. And of course, any of those rate changes, anything like that's going to have to go to council and all that stuff too.
I have one on the economic impact of the different sporting events in the area, because we're getting bigger and bigger things going on. American Magic, obviously, but
Sure.
The basketball tournaments at the Bay Center, sold out ice flyer games, and if we expand out to the county, we just have snowball derby and women's soccer. So, obviously Pensacola at the center of it all. How big of a focus is that, and what's the potential even moving on? Do you think the city is even getting a name as a place where, hey, you can have a big time sporting event there? Is it something that we are building further toward?
Yeah, my old background, Laura, was covering these things. I was, going to these sporting events or recruiting camps and all that stuff. I used to do that all the time. And you see, you think about all the hotel room nights and the parents come in depending on what the age is, what the sport is, how long they're there. I don't think you can argue having more people in town, staying at hotels and eating at our local restaurants and spending money down here is a good thing. But I also think that there's opportunity for improvement. And we're not the only city in this race. If you go look just along the Gulf Coast, the amount of investment that's made into attracting some of those things, I think it's fair to say we're behind in that. We have an aging Bay Center. We don't have from a youth sports standpoint, we don't have a significantly large, floor space that could take on an event of scale. Actually, if you just look at the pickleball thing, right now, fastest growing sport in the United States, that facility will be large enough when fully completed to do national tournaments. And that's part of the intrigue and part of the return on investment for the port and for the city is to say, well, if we've got hundreds of people coming in for a week and a weekend, that goes well beyond rent and property tax. That's, has significant value. So I think that project alone, certainly shows we believe in that. But it takes infrastructure to do it. I think you could make the same argument on convention space, and lots of folks debate post-COVID, is convention space, is there a need or is there not? Well, there's experts out there that can help measure that. But what I do know anecdotally is there's lots of events that don't come here because we don't have the floor space to help provide an event like that. And, as a matter of fact, I'm in leadership at U.S. Conference of Mayors, and I was like, man, that'd be great. I'd love to have mayors all over the country come here, sometime. And then I look at the requirements of hotel rooms and, some type of convention space, even for a smaller event, and we wouldn't fit it, because we just don't have those pieces, those assets. So I'm certainly a believer in those. I like the idea that has been floating around at the Bay Center of getting the rehab that it needs, as well as some potential convention space or sporting space, indoor. I would definitely support that, and yeah, absolutely. I think those things matter. And look around, we've got, I think, 4 hotels, maybe 5 now that have enough smoke to them. It's not just someone coming to meet with us and asking us about it. That whether it's demo permits or groundbreakings or about to go under construction, that matters in terms of what the events that you talk about being successful too. So, I hope we're turning the corner, in considering that, yes, we think that sporting events like that are of value, but we have some work to do, compared to some of our neighbors that have maybe put in some infrastructure a little faster than we have.
Mayor, look at the foot of the Bay Bridge. What's the status of the Jackie James Memorial statue?
Yeah, I'll tell you, from the city's standpoint, the ball is in someone else's court. We've
Whose court is it?
Good question.
Is it going to go on city land or is it going on the?
So that confusion was a passing mention in a county commission meeting that said, well, the mayor said they don't know whose property it was, which I'm not sure really where that came from. I think it was just a miscommunication. We know whose property it is. It's pretty simple to designate that, and we sent a letter to the county saying it's our property, and they have the ability to put it on there. So, I think we've done everything we've been asked to do. There was funding that preceded me. There was conversations about helping to fund, and I think that those that has gone through, and we've left it in the hand. Last I heard was it's in the hands of the nonprofit to go finish out the funding, and they were going to be having conversations with TDC. That's when the debate came up about, well, is it a tourist attraction or is it not? Or is it going to be on city land? Is it not? But as far as anything in our queue right now, I'm not aware of any. I think we designate, yes, they can have it here. And that agreement outlines that says, hey, yeah, you can have it here, but you don't have 10 years to build it. There's some finite amount of time that you're going to have for us to consider it. But again, we're supportive of it. And I think it's just a matter of getting it funded and whatever mechanism that they plan on taking on to do that. So we're at the ready when that funding's in place and we're comfortable with it, then we're ready to go.
So the work that's going on by South Market is the city sign.
That is correct. That's the welcome sign.
Okay.
That's correct. Yep. And looking still for about a February completion of that. Structure goes in first. I built a few signs, much smaller than this one, and I was shocked about how expensive they were. So we're being prudent, and we're building the structure and the base and knowing exactly what it looks like and how tall it is before you send it to the sign manufacturer. So versus the opposite, we don't have it sitting in a laydown yard, hoping we measured it right. So that's what you see, that beam going up. That it's all the support for the sign. Then we'll make it. Should be a pretty quick turn, and we should look like February for that to be in. Anything else? No.
The city council Thursday is voting on the homeless shelters, the pallet shelters.
Yep.
And this might have been answered yesterday, but do you know at this point, the info says there's different sizes of shelters. Do you know which shelters the city's going to be doing? And then also, have y'all found partners who are going to take them?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've heard a lot of enthusiasm and emails from nonprofits that are definitely interested in having it. We've asked the Homeless Reduction Task Force to help kind of get a lay of the land. As a matter of fact, Reeves, I believe, put in for a bid, and I think maybe there's some miscommunication. We were looking for a manufacturer, to make those. So pallet is one, and again, I think the most relevant example they have is I think they put 100 in Tampa with the city of Tampa down there. So it has all of the wind ratings and all of those, the wind load, Florida building code requirements can be put in place. I'm excited about the way we did it, and what we ultimately did is we encumbered the funds that allows it to be as versatile as we need it to be. So for example, I wouldn't be as motivated about this potential solution if our only choice was you have to take 20 of these one bed, 70 square foot ones, and you have to pick them. Well, I'd hate to do that and then those not be what our community needs. So the way it's encumbered is we ultimately have, an account to draw down with this company. So if one site is going to be able to take enough units and they need a $40,000 or $50,000 bathroom trailer that Pallet also builds, we can make that decision accordingly. So that's why some questions or concerns about the potential site prep or infrastructure. Yeah, of course, with anything, there's always going to be other costs incurred but this gives us the flexibility to decide. So if that means, for example, if we have one nonprofit that can take 3 single bed units, should we eliminate them because they don't take enough? If we're going to really make this a solution, let's fill the need everywhere we can fill it. And if there's a location that can take 25, let's do that. If there's one that can take 3, let's do that. So we really do have the ultimate flexibility in the way that we've encumbered the funds because it's an up to number. So we can say, we've encumbered this amount and we have 2 years to administer it. And we're not put in a position that only one vendor has to take them or they all have to show up on the same day. Hopefully this is approved and we start in January. We'll start engaging those conversations and we'll go to the task force meeting or with all the nonprofits and say, hey, listen, we're open and ready to start considering where we can put these. They'll arraign city assets, if you recall, and then we'll lease them for $1 a year or $0 a year, whatever we have to do. They'll be city property because if somebody goes out of business or they aren't in that work anymore, we'd be able to go get them back. I really do. I'm optimistic about this solution because I think it gives us the flexibility to meet need where it is and not just say, well, this sounds like a good idea. Why don't we put 100 somewhere? We aren't in that position, and that's why I support it.
Mayor, are you going to endorse anyone for Congress?
I might. I might. Listen, I think if anybody can appreciate what it takes to run for office, it's me. Anybody who's been in it and knows the work that it takes and all that. Certainly, I'll tell you, I'm a big supporter of Jimmy Petronis. I've known him for a while. He's a hospitality guy, like I was, and I absolutely think he would do a great job for us. So I would say that I'll be supporting Jimmy. Anything else?
You're done.
Yeah.
Wow, that was good. Okay then.
All right. Thanks, guys.